Hey guys, we are back. My next guest created his business, world famous LLC, from a little garage in Southern California, my neck of the woods, and helped brand some of the best known companies on the planet. Companies like Polo, Ralph Lauren, Nike, Tommy Hilfiger, Disney, and so many more. The question you need to ask yourself is, how different would your life be if your business was world famous? Please welcome to the show Mr. David Tyreman in the house. David, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. How are you today?
I am outstanding. I'm so excited about this entire show. I'm excited about our segment. I've got so many questions I want to ask. I'm going to dive in right away. But, David, before I do that, your story is so wonderful. I know that's part of what makes you who you are and your brand. Welcome, by the way, from, I believe you're in the 50th state. Is that correct?
Aloha. I'm in Hawaii, yes.
Absolutely. Hey, before we get into the crux of our interview, I'd love for you to take a few moments to let our listeners know your story, coming from across the pond to Southern California to up the coast to worldwide to Hawaii, with only, by the way, the start, as you talk about in your story, with $20 in your pocket at one point. I'd love for you to tell our listeners that story.
Okay, I'm going to share that story with you. Thank you for asking me to. And I also just want to let everybody know that what I'm going to be doing today is guiding you through a few steps to help you get really clear about your brand DNA, which we call brand identity. So I was just listening into the last interview with your guest, Mimi, and the last person who asked the question was a lady called Sashina, and one of the things that Mimi said was something about each person is powerful and different in their own unique way. And before I tell my story, I just want you to know, I wrote that down because I thought this is such an interesting lead-in to what we're going to be talking about today, because so often people feel invisible and they feel stuck, and they will start wondering, why would anyone choose me when there's so many others who do what I do? And so I am here to continue with, in a sense, Mimi's message of saying every single one of us truly are powerful and different in our own way, and your brand DNA is what we look at to help you get clear about that. So I'm going to cover some steps, but like you just asked me, I'm going to share my story about how I got to be in this place to share this information with you. So I think all great stories start with the line, once upon a time. And the truth is, once upon a time, I discovered I was down to my last $20. And I was here in the United States. I'd moved from England 6 months earlier, and I'd had this amazing idea, I thought, to bring antiques from England and sell them the way that people buy Tupperware here in the U.S., so antique parties in people's homes. I told everybody about my plan. I told my parents, I told my sister, I told my brothers and my grandparents, all my friends, all my colleagues at work. I couldn't wait to get to the United States to do this adventure. And every single person I told said to me, David, that idea sounds crap, and I don't think it's going to work. And here I was, 6 months later, staring at my last $20. And I put it on the kitchen table, and I called my business partner through, and we sat staring at it. And we had something worse than bad credit. We had no credit cards, no friendly bank manager, no overdraft facility. This was it. And I felt, wow, I'm proving everybody right. I've been here for 6 months and I'm down to my last 20. So I looked at my business partner and I said, do you have any ideas? And he said, no. And he said, do you have any ideas? And I said, well, it's a Tuesday. We're in Huntington Beach, Orange County, Southern California, and all I can think of is there's this bar on Main Street, and on Tuesday nights they do all the beer you can drink for $7 and all the nachos and cheese you can eat for $2.99. Let's go out. And so off we went. I mean, what else were we going to do? We had $20. So we go to the bar, we slap it down on the counter, and we start drinking beer. And we start talking about our whole adventure of 9 months in England planning this business and 6 months here in the US trying to make it happen. And we talked about all the people who tried to help us, and there have been a few. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I was hearing some feedback. So we talked about all the people who tried to help us, and there have been a few. And we talked about all the people who tried to rip us off, and there have been a lot. And then as the evening went on, I shared with the bartender, I said, we just spent our last money in the whole world in this bar. And she's like, are you nuts? Why would you do that? And I'm like, well, it's the only place we could afford. So she started asking us questions. She told the other bartenders, and they started asking us questions. They started pouring us shots. And they started finding out we started telling them stories all about our adventure, all about all the things we'd been doing over the last year or so. Then they started telling some of the locals. And a few of them gathered round and started asking us more questions. More shots get poured. And by the time the evening was finished, I realized I had a brilliant time that night. And at the end of the evening, I actually remember crying because we couldn't tip the staff, and they'd been so wonderful to us. And they said, don't worry, guys. You guys are great. What an amazing adventure you've been on. And by the way, we've been working in this bar all the time. You've been doing what you've been doing, and we're broke too. And I've been having a blast. And then down the bar was this guy, and he owned a limousine company. And he drove us home in the back of a brand spanking new limousine that night because he was so inspired by the things we were sharing. And I just remember being in the back of that limousine thinking, I'm loving this. I've loved this journey. It's so much better than what I was doing before in a job. And so that night I fell into bed, fell asleep, and the next morning, honestly, was the day I've been dreading because that was the day I woke up completely penniless.